Hurricane Irma has knocked out electricity to more than 1 million Florida homes and businesses while threatening the state's Gulf Coast with catastrophic flooding and storm surges. The storm, one of the most powerful ever recorded in the Atlantic, made landfall as a Category 4 storm in the Florida Keys archipelago off the state's southern tip at 9:10 a.m. local time on Sunday, 11:10 p.m. east, packing 210 km/h winds. Irma is on a course for the state's western coast, which was expecting storm surges, water driven ashore by the winds, of up to 4.6 meters, according to the National Hurricane Center, NHC. Tens of thousands of people huddling in shelters watched for updates as the storm swung to the west, now potentially sparing Tampa and Miami, the catastrophic head-on blow forecasters had been warning about for days. U.S. authorities say the storm, which left more than 20 people dead in the Caribbean, has already claimed at least one life in Florida. Emergency responders in the Florida Keys said they pulled a man's body from his pickup truck, which had crashed into a tree in high winds. In the Tampa Bay area, access to all of Pinellas County's barrier islands, including the popular spring break destination of Clearwater Beach, was shut off. About 1.1 million Florida homes and businesses had lost power by mid-morning as the storm pummeled the southern part of the state, Utility Florida Power and Light said. As the hurricane's eye approached the Florida Keys, Carol Walterson Stroud, 60, and her family were huddled in a third-floor apartment at a senior center in Key West. "We are good so far," she said in a text message just before 5:30 a.m. "It's blowing hard." Miss Stroud said she planned to step outside once the eye of the hurricane passed over. She said she has stood in the eye of a hurricane before and it was total peace and quiet. Irma, which prompted one of the largest evacuations in U.S. history, is expected to cause billions of dollars in damage to the third most populous U.S. state, and comes on the heels of Hurricane Harvey that devastated Texas and Louisiana last month. Florida Governor Rick Scott warned sea surges might devastate parts of Florida. He said a powerful sea surge would accompany Hurricane Irma as the storm moves through Florida, and that blast of ocean water could badly damage coastal areas. "I am very concerned about the West Coast," Mr. Scott said of Florida's western shoreline that faces the Gulf of Mexico. "This storm surge is just deadly." Earlier, Mr. Scott had warned residents in the state's evacuation zones on Saturday that this is your last chance to make a good decision. About 6.4 million people were told to flee. But because the storm is 900 to 1,000 kilometers wide, the entire Florida peninsula was exposed. Forecasters said the Greater Miami area of 6 million people could still get life-threatening hurricane winds and storm surge of 1.2 to 1.8 meters. The head of the U.S. Federal Emergency Agency said the storm was bringing tornado watches and warnings around the state. "This is a worst-case scenario for Monroe County, the Florida Keys and the west coast of Florida," Brock Long, administrator of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, told the Fox News Sunday. "Anytime you're in that northeast quadrant as the storm is moving forward, that's where the maximum radius winds are that define the intensity of the storm." Irma was at one time the most powerful hurricane ever recorded in the open Atlantic with a peak wind speed of 300 km/h last week. It left more than 20 people dead across the Caribbean, and as it moved north over the Gulf of Mexico's bathtub warm water, it was expected to regain strength. Meteorologists predicted Irma would plow into the Tampa Bay area on Monday morning. The area has not been struck by a major hurricane since 1921, when its population was about 10,000, National Hurricane Center spokesman Dennis Feltgen said. Now around 3 million people live there. The latest course also still threatens Naples Mansion and Yacht Line Canals, Sun City Center's retirement homes, and Sanibel Island Shellfield Beaches. Irma's course change caught many off guard and triggered a major round of last-minute evacuations in the Tampa area. Many businesses had yet to protect windows with plywood or hurricane shutters. Some locals grumbled about the forecast, even though Florida's west coast had long been included in the zone of probability. "For 5 days, we were told it was going to be on the east coast, and then 24 hours before it hits, we're now told it's coming up the west coast," Jeff Beerbaum, a 52-year-old entrepreneur in St. Petersburg, said. Nearly the entire Florida coastline remained under hurricane watches and warnings, and the latest projections could shift again, sparing or savaging other parts of the state. Forecasters warned of storm surge as high as 4.5 meters. "This is going to sneak up on people," Jamie Rome, the head of the